Well, the Super Bowl is set. The Aztecs are the comeback kids, and the Padres' lackluster offseason continues. We talk about it all right now on the final quarter on CBS 8+.
The final quarter begins right now.
Well, welcome back. John Howard, Karthik Venkatraman, I'm Jake Garriani. Folks, we have a Super Bowl, and it's set, and who's excited about it? Anybody?
I think I'm excited about it.
Okay.
I'm excited about it. It's a 1.5 point spread, so it's supposed to be a close game. I would have rather seen Chiefs-Lions, perhaps, but whatever.
Chiefs-Lions would have been probably the most ideal and most fun out of all things considered, with the storylines between the Chiefs, the storylines between the Lions. But honestly, I'm not upset about this. Everyone's like, oh, we just saw the Super Bowl a couple years ago.
Yep.
We don't want it again. But these are two really good football teams that I personally have really enjoyed watching throughout the entire offseason and even prior to that. And, I'm really excited because now the Eagles, excluding from last 2 years ago, have now added Saquon Barkley, who's been playing like an absolute beast and seems to bust off a 50-plus yard touchdown every single week. So I'm really excited. I think it'll be two really good teams facing off in the Super Bowl. I know people are not excited about the teams that are in it, but I think it's going to be a good football game.
We just saw the Super Bowl 2 years ago.
You're one of those guys.
Yeah. I can't say I'm too fired up about it, but we'll have a couple of weeks to discuss the actual matchup, the X's and O's of the Super Bowl. But how we got to this point was quite interesting. The Commanders giving it their all, but the Eagles really just kind of dominated that game. Commanders turned the football over like crazy in that game. I mean, Jaden Daniels played well, but that was about it. They were coughing up the football left and right, and then, of course, Bills, Chiefs. The game we all thought we were going to get was great. Your thoughts on both the conference championship games and just enjoying the games and what the outcomes were?
I felt like the Commanders-Eagles game was just, one of those that Jaden Daniels played well in for the most part. I mean, he had some blips along the way, but for the most part, he did everything he could. But when you have 4 turnovers in a football game, you're not going to win, especially on the road. And the Eagles just looked really, really good that day. I mean, 55 points, I think is what they ended up scoring in that game.
A 50-burger, baby.
Yeah, and on top of that, their defense was getting it done. I mean, what can you say? That was just a beatdown over in Philadelphia, and I know that fan base is very excited. And but hey, many great years to come. I've been saying it on the last couple of shows. Jaden Daniels is something else, and that team is going to be something else for years to come. And they have maybe one of the longer windows out of any other team right now, simply from where they are and how good they've become so quickly. So we'll see what the Commanders are able to do. Wouldn't be surprised if they're in the Super Bowl here soon.
The greatest hack a team can have is a rookie quarterback. That's good because it financially helps everything else. The Commanders can really go after it. They're in a great position, way ahead of schedule, as everyone said. They got new ownership, which has helped everything. John, I know you have some thoughts on the Bills and the Chiefs. We've discussed off camera a few times that I would now invite you to bring on camera, my friend.
Well, a final comment on the Eagles. I'm really sick and tired of the tush push, the brotherly shove. And what is taking so long for the defenders to figure out how to stop this thing? If the running backs are pushing Hurts, then the DBs and the safeties should be pushing the D linemen. It's an eye for an eye, and stop the guy from going.
Come on, John. We need John out there coaching the people playing the Eagles. Get in there, baby.
Yes, exactly. Now, as for the Bills and the Chiefs game, all the talk on social media about the controversy that the referees favor the Chiefs. I mean, subconsciously or consciously, I wonder if something's going on. There's no way something consciously is going on, but these Chiefs continue to get favored calls. When Josh Allen, he reached the line to gain on that 4th and short, and the previous play was 3rd and 3. Dalton Kincaid, his knee was not down. He got the ball to the line to gain. It was ruled a half a yard short. And on the following play, Josh Allen reaches it, and one side judge comes in here, the other comes in here, and they move it back. I don't understand. And then on the Chiefs, not the Chiefs, but the Bills' final play of the game, could have been, should have been roughing the passer. I've seen calls on defenders tackling Mahomes that were far softer than what Josh Allen took on that final Bills play of the game, but no flag. And I am sure the league is not telling the officials, be sure to favor the Chiefs. Taylor Swift cutaways are good for the ratings.
Oh, gosh.
I do not think that is going on. But my goodness, there is very good argument that the Chiefs keep getting a lot of favorable calls.
We got the
feel like-
conspiracy theorists going on,
That's
and I'm
right.
kind of here for
That's
it.
just the narrative that keeps going.
It is a
on.
narrative
It's
for
just
sure.
like-
It's a fact.
It's
It's
a
not a narrative.
It's
It's a narrative because it's actually on video.
John giving me the yelling treatment. I feel kind of attacked right now. That's my thing, John.
Feel good on that end, doesn't it?
I don't like it. But I feel like this is something that's just kind of been put out in the universe, and then every single time the Chiefs get a call, people are always, then now they're drumming it even more than what it was. It's just like any favorable call or any call that looks like it wasn't right, it's homerism on the Chiefs. This is what's happening consciously, unconsciously. I honestly, it's not that I don't care. I just think it's blown out of proportion. And I also think at the end of the game, the Bills had a chance to go out, get the win. They didn't. The Chiefs came out, right after the Bills scored a touchdown to tie the game. They go kick a field goal to go ahead. At the end of the day, who executed? The Kansas City Chiefs. Yeah. They're in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, if Dalton Kincaid, I mean, it's a tough catch, but if he makes that catch, the storylines are completely different, obviously. Yep. And I think the truth probably lies somewhere in between. If the Chiefs gotten some calls over the course of history, yeah, probably, right? But it is a lot of narrative, as you say, Karthik, too. So I think they almost play into each other as you see that all play out. But it was a great game like we all thought it would be. Now, way back, this predates Karthik. Way back when John and I were making some predictions on the entire season. This was all the way back on August 24th. We predicted division winners and who would be in the Super Bowl, and we thought now would be a fun time to take a look back. We'll start with my predictions, and then we'll get on to John's. I guess we have to show mine. We'll go ahead. And take a look at my picks for the NFC. The Chicago Bears, I think our producer Alex Kleinman was getting in there and changing some stuff on me. The Chicago Bears, somebody's drinking the HBO Hard Knocks juice right there. But hey, let's take it, huh? Why not? Caleb Williams, Rome Odunze, Keenan Allen, and one of the best defenses. The Bears may surprise some people. I got the Dallas Cowboys. That division confuses me a little. I don't know where the Eagles are. I'm taking the Cowboys. The Atlanta Falcons, John, I love. Now that Kirk Cousins is healthy, over there with Bijan Robinson and Kyle Pitts and a bunch of playmakers, that team could be really good. And the Los Angeles Rams have huge expectations to me this year. I think they should be going to a Super Bowl. Let's swing over to the AFC side. I got the Ravens. I think they're the class of the North there. It's going to be the best division in football in my mind, but they're the class. Buffalo Bills have won it a bunch of years in the row. Not changing anything with them. And then the Houston Texans, I love this team, and why change anything as well with the Chiefs? Here is my Super Bowl prediction. This might surprise some people. How about it, Howard?
Oh, Houston.
The Texans and the Detroit Lions. That's what I'm going with. People are going to go, hey, that's dumb. What a crazy pick, Jake. It might be crazy, but I believe it. The Lions were NFC North, this close to being the NFC North, the NFC champions, and then the Texans look so good. John, what you got?
I think you've been grazing on some of that Texas grass out there with the cattle.
Hey, that's dumb. At least I picked two playoff teams that made it to the playoffs for my Super Bowl. The Bears was definitely a
Bears.
ugly. The Bears and the Cowboys were ugly.
Cowboys. And then, the Falcons are great with Kirk Cousins. I think the Falcons had a rookie starting at quarterback by the end of the year.
By the end of the year, Michael Penix is starting at quarterback. Not a great look, but that's why we love predictions. Karthik, before we get to John's predictions, as the person that wasn't here that gets to look back on it, your thoughts?
I don't know what to say. They weren't bad. Your Super Bowl predictions were bad. I'm going to just skip past your division picks on the NFC side.
Yeah.
But the picks for the Super Bowl, they were bad picks. Obviously, the Lions had a fantastic year, came up short to the Commanders, and the Texans, C.J. Stroud didn't have as good a year as he did last year, and that probably played into a decent part as to why they don't move on, plus the wide receiver depth that they had issues. So not bad, Jake, not bad.
And this isn't going to make Jake feel any better, but picking the Texans, not a bad call. I selected C.J. Stroud on my fantasy team. Awful. Awful. I was thinking the same thing, too. I was thinking C.J. Stroud had a great rookie season, was going to be spectacular this year, had a little bit of the sophomore slump.
John, your turn.
All right, here we go. All right, Jake, here we go. Read them and weep. The great Gnosticators predictions for NFC divisional winners. NFC West, the Niners easily over your Rams. NFC North, Detroit. Green Bay is going to buy, but I like too much of what I saw from the Lions last year. NFC South, New Orleans. Yes, local Shaheed and Olave lead the team to a division title. And in the NFC East, Dallas over a tough fighting Philly team. In the NFC Championship game, I have the Niners again defeating the Lions to reach the Super Bowl. AFC, I must have lost my head because my picks mirror yours, Jake. I scratch that. I'll be a nice guy. Great minds think alike. Hard to go against any of these teams as divisional winners. The Chiefs, the Ravens, the Houston Texans, and Buffalo. I think Josh Allen and Buffalo will get over the hump, beat Kansas City, make it to the Super Bowl for the first time since Jim Kelly was behind center, which was 30 years ago. And in the Super Bowl, the Niners have too many weapons. They have more deep playoff experience, and San Francisco knocks off the Bills for their 6th Super Bowl title in NFL history. You can re-rack the tape in January, Jake. The great Johnosticator has spoken.
We have re-racked the tape in January. What does the great Johnosticator have to say for himself?
Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. He doesn't know what he's talking about. I said the 49ers have too many weapons. Yeah, too many weapons that got injured.
Yeah.
For Pete's sake, the 49ers did not work out, nor did the Cowboys. The Cowboys just cannot get it done. I think ownership might have something to do with that.
Hey, John, at least you picked a team that made it to a championship game, so that's not bad for your Super Bowl
Yeah,
match.
okay.
You had the Bills in there. So.
Thank you.
But the moral of the story is we have got to stop doubting the Kansas City Chiefs all year, right?
Yeah.
All right, it's the Bills too. They're going to get over that hump. They're going to beat the Chiefs. Chiefs, looking for the first team in the Super Bowl era to win 3 straight championships. So we should all just zip it. All right. That's plenty of football talk for now as we got a couple weeks to break down the Super Bowl. Let's move on quickly to some Padres offseason news. It feels like a broken record. Here we go again. More, I don't know if I'd call it bad news, not necessarily surprises, but Ha-Seong Kim to the Rays, Profar to the Braves. The Padres continue to lose pieces that I think we knew we were going to lose, but yet the biggest addition so far has been Elias Diaz, and that's where the Padres still sit. As we move really close, guys, I mean, spring training is around the corner. Your thoughts on where the Padres sit?
For a long time, for many years, this Padres organization was, well, if this guy and that guy can have their typical year and we get a couple of career years out of the likes of Jerks and Profar, and that's part of the reason we had success last year. Yeah, it's sad and it's a bummer to see Profar go, but he's had one career year.
Yeah.
Was he going to do it again? You'd like to think so, but not now that he's on the Rays. So I don't know. I think last year
what
I say?
Braves, yeah. Ha-Seong Kim Rays, Profar.
Oh,
Braves.
okay,
Yep,
sorry,
yep,
yeah. And so you want to see this team do well. It's just a matter of what's going to happen. And these departures, they're tough departures. It's hard to see and not coming away with the star pitcher, and it's just a bummer. And we have lawsuits to talk about instead of player personnel changes.
Yeah, I think with the Padres, you kind of expected this stuff to happen. When Kim declined his $8 million player option, you knew the money price was going to maybe be, close to double or, a substantial amount more than what he was going to get paid if he was declining that player option. And what do we know about the Padres? They don't have a lot of money that they're really trying to spend right now because they don't want to go over the luxury tax. Profar was one of those pieces that I know was debated about a lot. Could they bring him back? Is that a possibility? Obviously, he ends up going to the Braves and signing his deal there too. I think 3 years, $42 million or something like that. So
just the Padres were never going to pay that.
Correct. It's just like it's that money issue that really becomes a thing, and it's kind of what John said earlier. I mean, you got your core pieces. They are bringing back a lot of really good, talented players, but they are going to have to, as we get closer and closer to spring training, it's starting to look more and like they're going to just have to find pieces that they already have that they're going to have to plug in. And as John said, hope that they have those career type years.
Yep.
You mentioned Profar, and I think that's a great example because, he has an all-star type of year as where he didn't really have that prior. And that's what you're just going to need. And you got to trust the Padres organization that they can pull it off and they can do it again because they have a lot of those key pieces in place. This is going to be a team that's going to be really in contention. Obviously, we've seen what the Dodgers have done. It kind of seems out of the picture to me that they're going to win the division. It's not going to happen. So you're looking at a wild card series probably in the playoffs as your best case scenario. And you have to play off that, maybe make some moves within the season that allow you to really get over there, and maybe they catch fire after the All-Star break again and maybe get farther than they did this year. But I would warn this is a lot of people see what the Dodgers are doing or maybe, what other teams are doing and just loading up with all this money. Sometimes the teams that go on paper are not the teams that win it all. I mean, we see the Dodgers and Yankees just push money all the time to things, and they don't win the championship every year. So pump the brakes. It's tough to see a lot of these players go. Fan favorites like Ha-Seong Kim leaving the team, Profar after he had such a great year. But you're gonna have to trust the process because you really don't have another option. Is what I'd say to Padres fans.
Baseball hasn't had a repeat champion in a long, long time. There's a reason why, right? It's great parity in this sport. And yeah, you have to trust A.J. Preller because he's proven to us over and over and over again that he finds ways. You guys use the Profar example. I can't say people are excited to see Profar come back before last season, right? On $1 million and go, oh, shoot, here comes Profar. We didn't know who 2/3 of the outfield was going to be last year, and they had 3 all-star outfielders. Jackson Merrill moves over there. I mean, this team still has a great pieces on it. Manny Machado, Fernando Tatis Jr., Xander Bogaerts. I expect him to have a good year this year. You have the 3-time batting champion, Luis Arias, on this team. You got Jake Cronenworth. I mean, there are a lot of good options. A kid who should have won Rookie of the Year. It's still a very talented roster. And let's not forget that, Martin Perez was throwing quality innings for this team a year ago. A.J. Preller seemingly always finds a way, and I think he will do it once again. And where that leaves the Padres, we don't know. But as you mentioned, I think it'll be a competitive team out there on the field for San Diego. Let's wrap up, speaking of San Diego, about the Aztecs, who gave everybody a bit of a heart attack when they fell behind.
They've been doing that a couple of times lately, man.
21 points to San Jose State. A second half performances by Magoon Guath, Nick Boyd, Miles Bird lift the Aztecs to one of their biggest comebacks in I think what was 8 years, that 21-point deficit and comeback. You guys, did you breathe during this one?
Well, it was heartbreaking. I mean, and I'll tell you what, my buddies on the threads, Jake, you being on one of those threads, but then my fraternity brothers from the Aztec San Diego State days back in the 80s, these guys are all whining, well, we're going to go to the NIT, we're going to go to the NIT. And I'm thinking it's way too early to talk about that. I mean, right now we're still 43rd in the net ranking, and that's the ranking the NCAA committee uses to decide the seedings and the brackets for the NCAA. So I think it's too early for the negative Neds out there to be saying, we're not going to the NCAAs. I believe it was a good, respected colleague of mine who said, you lose one at home, and I'm sorry, they're not going anywhere. And I say, hooey. They've got 10 more wins. They win out, and they win 2 games in the conference tournament. They're still an at-large team.
I think they were flirting with serious disaster, John, if they lost that Air Force game. A quad 4 loss on the road to Air Force and a quad 3 loss to UNLV, which they did lose at home.
UNLV is not going to be quad 3 by the time the season's over, probably, though. That's looking more like a quad 2, probably, by the time the year's over with the NET rankings. They're playing pretty good basketball.
The Aztecs, they got 3 home losses, though. They drop a quad 4 loss to Air Force. If they had done that, I think they would have been in serious trouble to get an at-large bid. But, hey, they found a way.
They did.
Wayne McKinney found a way, no defense by the Falcons, to win that game. And then this huge comeback. The Aztecs continue to flirt with this stuff. Let's hear from head coach Brian Dutcher, and then we'll wrap up the conversation. Here's Dutch.
Well, obviously, we're still basking in a 21-point comeback. So that was a lot of fun. The energy in the building was incredible. Just want to thank all our fans that come to Viejas to support their Aztecs for all their help. Helping us get back into that game and getting over that hurdle to get a victory. Coaches don't sleep at night when they give up 15 threes, and they sleep less when they're playing a team that just hit 17 in their last game. So we're playing a Wyoming team that's coming off 17 threes and a victory, and we have to find a way to not be giving up that many threes if we want to continue to have success.
Yeah, the threes definitely was a big part. It seemed like San Jose State was making everything from three-point range. But for me, it's a little more than that. I'd like to see more consistency just out of the Aztecs in general. It seems in a lot of these games, they give up one half, then the next half they play really well, and they skate by beating an Air Force team or San Jose State. That Nevada game on the road, right before the San Jose State game, one of their more complete games I've seen them play in quite some time. I don't know what it is about this team. Coach Dutcher was asked about it after the game, what makes them so good on the road, because it seems like some of their better performances, like against Boise State was on the road, against Nevada was on the road, even, going back, those wins against like Houston was not at home, it was at a neutral site. So you start looking at that and you ask questions about that, but what I really want to see out of this Aztecs team is consistency. Where they are at their best and always have been is their defense, turning that into transition buckets. Their half-court offense is not the greatest. Luckily, they hit some very timely shots in that game against San Jose State. That helps them to a victory. But what's this team identity going to be like? They're still pretty young. They got a lot of young pieces. At this point, I don't think we're going to see Reese Waters come back this year. It's starting to get a little too late in the season. What is this Aztecs team going to look like? And, John, you talked about the NCAA tournament and, them being on the bubble. I think they're very much on the bubble. I don't think they've looked extremely impressive in a lot of these, even if you look at the NET rankings and, they're well in the margin of making the NCAA tournament. And I think, right now, if you looked at it, they are in. If you look at the scheme as a whole, do they pass the eye test? In that Air Force game, that San Jose State game, I don't think they very much passed the eye test. This is a team that really needs to button up because they might not always be able to come back or pull off last-second buzzer beaters to win. Then if you start dropping games like these, down the stretch, what if like on Saturday against Wyoming, they don't play well and they lose by 15? A 15-point loss to Wyoming at home is a destroyer in the NET ranking, stuff like that. And when you look in the committee, these are the kind of things they need to avoid. They need to look sharper. That's really the simple end-all, be-all if they really want to solidify their spot in the NCAA tournament instead of maybe having to play an 11-seed play-in game.
They ain't losing by 15 to Wyoming.
That was a hyperbolic statement. I'm just saying you don't want to be in situations where you lose bad games because you're not playing two halves of basketball.
Everybody wants consistency, of course. That's like the great thing to say about any sport, right? Consistency is really good. The thing with young teams is they're inconsistent.
Sure,
it's hard to be young and consistent, and I think that's really what you chalk it up to at the Aztecs. They're a young ball club. You're going to have great nights. You're going to have nights like Magoon-Guath had one night against San Jose State, and then you're going to have Magoon-Guath score 1 to 0 points on certain nights. That's what young teams do. The key is, John, can Brian Dutcher get them playing as consistent as they can going into the Mountain West Conference tournament, going into the NCAA tournament, assuming they make it?
I think they can. You talk about youth, and I wonder if at the beginning of the season, the first 10 games, this team of young players gelled and had big wins, quad one wins in the first 10 games. Now they've swooned a little bit, and I think it's because of their inexperience, like you guys have said. And now what Dutch's responsibility is to get these guys back up. And because this team does very well on neutral courts and on the road, I think they will be a solid team at the Mountain West Conference tournament. And assuming they get the bid to the NCAAs, they'll do well there as well. And hopefully these young guys are just getting the reps that they need so that their level of play comes back up. And I also wonder, I was talking with Mark Ziegler of the UT today. He says the home games, there's so much distraction, the huge crowd, families are there. They may have class that morning, but when they're on the road, they're on the road. There's one thing to focus on, the game that night. And I think that point is pretty well taken. A lot of distractions that these 18, 19-year-olds just aren't used to yet. So hopefully they will be in the next month heading into the postseason.
Yeah, they'll learn to play together, consistent, better as the seasons go on. Brian Dutcher's always been great about making his teams better as the year goes on. They will play Wyoming on February 1st. We'll be able to talk about that when we return on the final quarter on CBS 8 Plus next week. We appreciate you always being with us here on Roku, on Fire TV, on Apple TV, on YouTube. Thank you so much, and join in on the conversation with us. Any final thoughts? You're predicting Eagles or Chiefs winning the Super Bowl?
Not yet.
Not yet. No predictions yet.
I'm predicting the Aztecs beat Wyoming Saturday.
I'm predicting we'll see you back here next week. Have a great week. Take care out there.